In this video, we're going to combine, for example, a div where we have a line here or two lines that indicate if something would be in a status of danger or on reset value or success. So for example, if I click on this one here, we're now back into the center here and the status is successful. If I click on reset value, it will go down below the threshold and then it gives a warning of reset system, and of course if we go up here, a danger. So let's start to look how we can create this. So let's start to look how to create an indicator based on values in Chartjs. So the first thing what we need is we need to go to chartjs3.com, getting started, this specific link here, and you can find this link also in the description box. Scroll down and then copy this entire chunk of code here. If you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this video here. So once I paste that in there, I'm going to cut out this title, and then I will put that in here. Save that, refresh, there we are. So now we have a simple basic bar chart. I will make it a line chart, it's probably more applicable. Scroll down here, convert this into a line chart, and save that and refresh. Alright, so now we have this. Next, what I want to do is now to create the lines where we basically have the range between where it is a safe zone, where would be a danger zone, and where it would be like a warning zone. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to, in the constant here, or this constant of config, after the options, I'm going to say a comma. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say plugins. And then we're going to create basically a plugin, and what I will call this is a status tracker. I'm going to copy this, then of course put it up here as well. So I'm going to say here a status tracker plugin block, and I'm going to say a constant status tracker equals ID, and then string value here of status tracker, although this is not really necessary, we can skip this because we won't be using that at all. And then what I'm going to say here is when will we draw these status lines here at the back. Well, in this case I would say we will draw them after, or let's say before, the data set. So after the grid lines and before the dataset line has been drawn, we will draw this, and then on top of that there will be the line chart basically, or the data set. So we're going to say here before data set draw. And then what I want to do here is I say chart, and next what I want to do is arguments, and find here the plugin options. Although we won't be using these two, we're only going to use this one here, and what we're going to do here is what we call a object destructuring. So what we're going to do then is go to a constant, and then here curly braces equal chart, and an object destructuring is basically selecting an object which has multiple values and split them out into multiples. So in this case, this object here, chart, has another one, is CTX. So instead of going from chart.ctx, we're now going directly to CTX. We can use this shorthand here. So this saves us some time in writing it. Next, what I want to do here is the chart area. That's also a very important one. And I'm going to recommend you to watch the video understanding the chart area to understand what this truly is. But basically it is within this amount of pixels here, within this chart area where the chart is being drawn. So then I'm going to say here the top, bottom, left, right, and we're going to get the width and the height of the chart. We might not use all of them, but having them all there, that's fine, and afterwards we can always remove them if necessary. And then next, what I want to do here is the scales, and I want to grab here specifically the X and Y scales, or in essence we could just do it only with the Y scale. That's the one we probably will be needing for this here. So now what I want to do is I want to start to draw a line. So the first thing I'm going to say is CTX save to save all variables above, and then I'm going to say here we're going to create a line, and I want this line to start, for example, everything above 10 would be considered a danger zone, and everything below 4 would be maybe like a warning or a restart or something like that. So basically this range between 10 and 4, or 4 and 10, between here, is considered the safe zone or the success zone. So what we're going to do here is, for example, we're going to start to draw. So I'm going to say a ctx.begin path. And the CTX here basically refers to the canvas itself with the ID name of whatever we have assigned here. In this case, the ID of my chart. So then what I'm going to do here, begin path, which will indicate that we're going to start drawing a shape, and I'm going to CTX. I want to make a line, but I want to make a thick line, so I'm going to say line width equals 3. So 3 pixels thickness. And then next what I want to do is I want to give it a color. Let's say ctx.stroke style. So we're going to give the line, which in Canvas is called a stroke. So basically, if you have a paintbrush and you paint with a paintbrush, we call it a brush stroke. And this is exactly the same here, because we're still in the canvas, and the canvas is like a painting. So it uses the same theme and jargon basically within the canvas. So then what I want to do here is I want to say here a color, and I'm going to grab here the red color of the borderline. So I'm going to copy this one, put that in there. So this is a string, so single quotations here and then semicolon. Next what I want to do now is start to draw the line, and let's start looking at how we will draw it. Well, basically we're going to start at 10, and not specifically or basically on the x value of 10. So there's some space here between, and if I open up my console log, you'll see it very nicely. As you can see here, there's some space here between. For this, we're using the chart area, because chart area has this left side here basically indicating the starting point on the left here, exactly on the chart area. So, or yeah, well, basically this line here is the left side of the chart area. This one is the bottom, top, and then the right side here. So what I'm going to do here is start to draw something. I'm going to say here the first starting point. So we're going to move the pixel to this specific starting point. So we will not draw anything, but that will be the starting point from this point on. So say move to, that's the command, and here we have the x and y as starting point. However, the x here will be 10 here, basically the left. So we're going to say here left. That's why we have this one here, the chart area left. And then the y value is basically in the scales, but specifically on this 10 point. So basically we want to get this 10 value on the y scale and convert it into a pixel. Luckily we have the command, because we already have the y here, and we're going to use a built-in command in Chartjs. So I'm going to say here, say y.get pixel with capital P, 4 with capital F, and then value with capital V. And then we're going to indicate here what is the value. In this case, it is number 10, because I want to be on the vertical scale of 10. Alright, so once we have this, this is our starting point. If I would say now a CTX, I'm going to say here line 2, this is the moment we're going to start to draw the line, and we need here again an x and y value. Well, remember what we need. Well, basically we want to start here and then go all to the right side here. And this right is basically the ending of the canvas. So and it's also the ending of the chart area. So we can say here the right, copy that, put in here. Then for the y, because it's just a flat line, we don't have to go up or down anymore. So the value of this is exactly identical. So I'm going to copy this, put it in there. Once I did this, semicolon. Then next what I want to say here is to draw the line. Because we didn't draw the line yet, it's just only laying out the expected drawing of the line. But now we have the command to draw the line, which is stroke. That's the command to draw that line. Once we did that, I'm going to say ctx.close path. This is necessary so that nothing else would leak to or bleed to any other parts. And then what we're going to do here as well, ctx.restore, meaning as well resetting any other color and line width, everything back to its original shape prior to what we did. So if I save this now, refresh, there we are. So now we have our first line here. That looks beautiful. So I want now a next one. And how can we do that? Well, we could copy this and just paste that, but that is not what I want. I want to have it professional and of course consistent. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a function, and we can reuse this same function here. So I'm going to say a function, and what we can say here is, let's say draw lines, very simple function. And we have this, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out this, put it in here, give it a proper indentation, there we are. If I save this now, it is gone. You might say why? Well, because we didn't activate the function. So let's start to activate the function by saying draw lines, save this, refresh. So now it works. However, I want to put in a value. So how do we do that? Well, here we can say, for example, a y value, because that's the one we want to adjust. That's this one here. I'm using y and not a y value instead of y. The reason for this is because we have already a term here. If we use here y and here y, we will get a confusion and get an error. So I need to say here y value. Let's convert this one here and convert that one here, and then we can say here 10. If I save this, there we are. It works nicely. So what I could do as well is I could do another line here. And what I want to do here then is to say number 4. Save that. There we are. So now we have drawn 2 lines. However, I want to have the colors. Everything above here should, or this should be red because that's a real danger zone. And everything below here is like a warning or maybe reset your system, something like that. Doesn't matter. It's just like a notification. Like, please pay attention. So what I'm going to do is, you see this color here. I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to say here now color. Put here comma for color. Then what I'm going to do here is comma and put in the color there. But of course for this one here, I want to have another color. So I'm going to grab the yellow color. Yellow color is the 4th one here, so I'm going to grab this, copy, paste, and save. Refresh, there we are. So now we have this nice working. We're of course not done because we need to have a text here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly create here another item. So let's duplicate this. You can imagine in a dashboard you have like multiple squares. I will not focus on the design, but what I want to focus on is at least a simple structure here. So I'm going to say paragraph, I'm going to say a status, and I'm going to say here a span, and here we're going to say here ID equals, let's say status. I'm just giving it something, and then I'm going to put in here success. Save that. So that's the default. Alright, so now we have this one here. And what I want to do is, if we are within here, it is successful. If it is below, it becomes like reset system, and if it's above, we have like a warning. So now what we're going to do here, and you can see here, this looks maybe a bit horrible, but I don't focus on the CSS on this for now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to scroll down here, and what I want here is basically to create a function. And this function, let's call this our tracker function, and then we call it our tracker function. And what this function will do is basically give us the proper names. So how are we going to do that? Well, basically, I want to do here, first thing is, let's say, I need to grab the last value of our item. Because if it's here above, this might be danger, but it's not applicable in our case. Because we want to have the last value as applicable, because then we know if we are in a safe zone, yes or no. So this is the only one I want to track because these others here will not have any value for us in this case. So this is the last value. So that would mean, and this is an array, so that would mean we need to go into the array here back, in the data, and then data sets, and then data here, and get the last value. So let's do that one now. We're going to say constant, I will say your data points. It's basically the array. To get there, we go from my chart, then as I said earlier, data sets index 0. Remember here, if I go back, data sets, and it's an array, so this is index 0, and then we're going to grab here the data. Let's say here data. I'm going to keep it like this because this is our shorthand now. This shorthand will be very useful because now I can say, for example, the length. So if I want to say a constant data point length, it would be like this. Data points dot length. So now, because what I want, of course, eventually is the last value, but the length will say 7 instead of 6, because we have here index 6 because it starts at 0. So this is very important to understand, because an array in JavaScript is zero-based calculation. So then what I want to do here now is create a very simple if statement. I'll say if statement, if, and then what I'm going to do here now is this basically going to say our data points, so in here. So if data points, and then what we need to do here is an array, and then I'm going to say a length, and I realize that length here is misspelled. We could even just say -1. That will make it even better, because I need to deduct it by 1. So then we don't have to put it to formula in here. So we just say only like this. So if data point length -1, which is basically built in here, equals, or basically here would be, if this would be bigger than 10, in that case, what I want to do here, I'm going to say here, we're going to get the status item here up. So I'm going to say document get element, and we can maybe even use a shorthand of it. I'm going to say constant status equals document dot get element by ID status. So I'm going to grab this. So if that is the case, then this ID item here, then we say here dot inner text, because I want to change the text, should be now converted into danger. So if I would save this now and refresh, of course nothing happens yet because we're still on the value, but of course the function has not been triggered. So I'm going to change the value here, put on 11, refresh. Alright, so now we're here. Now we have to match this one. How do we match this? Scroll down here. You can see here we have this functionality here. So basically this entire item, I'm going to grab here the tracker function and just say here function tracker. So if I save this, refresh, there we are. So now it starts to communicate with each other, because it will, after it loads, it will then start to change the value here. Of course, we're not done yet. So I'm going to say else if, and then what we're going to do here is exactly the same, except now if the value is below 4. And in that case, if that is the case, we put in this, we say here reset system, for example, and finally else if it is between our item here, then we just can say success. So if I save this now, there you are. You can see in the beginning it loads success because of our loading here. Let's look it up here. Maybe we can just put this on, maybe pending. You can see now it's pending, and then if I refresh, it shows this. Alright, we're not done yet, because what I want to do now, I want to put a button here, and then you can see it really nicely. So then what I want to do here is, let's put in here some buttons as a final. Let's put it just here. And then what I'm going to say here, button. Alright, and then we're going to say on click, add value. I'm going to add a value here, and this value will be, this one will be over the top, say 20. So we know that this will be danger. Danger value. Then the next one, we'll make this, we say success value, and this will be reset value. So this should be 7, that's fine, and this one will be number 1. So if I save this now, we're not done yet because we need to start activating the functionality. So what we're going to do here now is basically this. I'm going to say function. I'm going to say add value, and whatever the value is, I'll just put in value. This is basically our parameter because our argument value has been already defined here. And then what I want to do here is the following. I'm going to say here, because what I need to do now is I need to push the value in, because I want to add up a new value in the chart here. So I'm going to say here the following. We're going to go my chart.data, basically go back to the array. That's basically this one here. I'm going to copy this. We can just copy this one. Put it in there, and then we say dot push, whatever the value would be, is the value. That's this one here. So once we did this, we're not done yet, because if you only push this, what will happen? It will not show here because we need to put in labels. This is very important. Chartjs works with the labels. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to say here, but then here we're going to get the labels. How do we get the labels? It's in data.labels. Alright, very straightforward. Put it here, and then here for the value now is, let's say, next or new day, and make sure that this is of course a string. Save that. Now if I refresh, alright, so now if I click here on success, oh, so what happened here exactly? Basically it's being pushed, but we forgot one thing. Say this, dot update, we want to update the chart here. I save this now, we should expect now a proper matching response. So you can see here now, new day, value 7, success. Reset value, reset system because we're below, then you're in danger, and there we are. So with this, basically, you can start to play around and update the values here nicely. So if you enjoyed this video, and maybe instead of like having like this kind of basic text, you want like a table from the data of Chartjs, in that case, I'm going to recommend you this one here on how to create a table from the data set in Chartjs, because basically with this you could go and use these indicators as well, all combined.